Hello, welcome to the March Mental Health Minute. My name is Catherine Van Tassell. I'm the Director of Behavioral Health Consulting here at GBS. I wanted to talk this month about self-care. Self-care is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but I thought it would be good to break it down into one tip for you to focus on this month if you choose to. But before we did that, I wanted to zoom out and just take a minute to be mindfully aware of what the term self-care actually means. And the idea behind that is we're going to talk about one tip for March, but considering all the areas of your life and maybe taking a little bit of an inventory of where you may be doing really well and where you may be challenged and have areas of opportunity for growth. So just thinking about the term self-care, what does that actually mean? Well, essentially, these are deliberate actions that we take, that we care for our physical, our mental, and our emotional health. Essentially, us being proactive to ensure our well-being, to maintain a healthy relationship with ourselves. And I think this analogy gets thrown around a lot, but it's true. When you're on an airplane, you want to put your oxygen mask on first so that you can help other people. If we don't learn to care for ourselves, we end up getting overwhelmed, underslept, undernourished. We can get burnt out, and then we can't show up for anybody, including ourselves. And so thinking about all the areas of opportunity that we have for self-care, I think that this infographic does a really good job of illustrating that because there's so many different ways that we can care for ourselves. And, when you look at what are my relationships like? The ones that really feed my soul versus maybe tax my soul. What is my physical environment like? Is my house cluttered? Or are there things that I need to pay attention to in my physical environment? Can I make it more mindful or peaceful, add elements of water or plants? We know that even bringing green things inside can be beneficial to our stress levels. Thinking about mind-body connection, mindfulness practices, breath work, movement, exercise, and definitely sleep. Our nutrition, personal and professional development. There are so many ways that we can care for ourselves. Now, the problem is we are also challenged with all of these things that fight for our attention and our needs, and take away for time for self-care. We have jobs to work and families to care for and bills to take care of. And there can be a lot of stress in this world, and there's definitely seasons where we feel more stress than others. Maybe not enough time for sleep. We're just overwhelmed and tired too. So how do I put one more thing on my list? However, again, going back to that example of the oxygen mask, knowing that if we set some boundaries and we take time to care for ourselves, that all of these things that we worry about and stress about, we will be more emotionally resilient to tackle that, to be able to show up in the places that we need to. So my one tip for March is to consider maybe setting some digital boundaries. The reason I chose digital boundaries is because I think that this is an area of really interesting emerging research. I mean, over the past 5 years, we're getting more and more and more. But what we see is that Americans are checking our phones more than 200 times a day, and we can spend hours a day on social media. So thinking about a way that we can easily get more time back, this was one of the thoughts that came into my mind is, oh, what a great way to maybe take something that's not maybe serving us, and putting something in it as a replacement that will bring us more joy. So just consider what are your relationships with your digital devices? And for example, how often do you check your phone? And I think a really good exercise for you to do this month would be just to check on your phone. You can do this on an iPhone or an Android to see what your screen time is. Let's just see a baseline. Maybe for some of you, this isn't something that interferes with your life at all. However, the majority of us, it's taking up quite a bit of time. So, looking at that time that you spend, think about what you feel. How do you feel about that number? Not a judgment, but do you feel like that's an appropriate use of your time and that for that time you're getting what you need? And then, okay, if I were to just take a small step to maybe change my digital usage, what are the things that I could do instead? And some of the things that I think about are, well, could I get more sleep? Could I spend more time with friends and family, with my kiddos? Maybe I could read a book that been wanting to read. I could go for a walk with the dog. I could make a healthy meal. There are so many ways, again, thinking about that infographic on all these ways that you could care for yourself. If you were to put some digital boundaries in place, where would that free up time for more self-care? And here are some ideas. Um, First, just identify how and I was talking about this when you're going to look at your screen time. How do digital activities increase and limit your well-being? If they do, maybe they don't. What about establishing some tech-free zones in your house? So doing this, whether you're single or in a family, an example would be, okay, maybe at the dinner table, there are no phones, whether you're single or in a family. So if you're single, this means that you spend more time mindfully enjoying your food instead of being distracted by a TV, a computer, or a phone. We know that eating mindfully, we feel more satisfied with the food we eat, and there's lots of benefits from that. If you're in a family environment, everybody in the family is not on a device or watching TV, and you spend time connecting, talking about your day, checking in with each other. Maybe there are hours that are tech free in your house from 5 to 6 or 5 to 7. And again, that's time to spend connecting or doing something else like reading, a mindfulness exercise, movement. There are apps that can help with this. So they can regularly review and clean out unnecessary apps. We can also put blockers so that either you can't open the app or it will limit the time that you are on an app. And then at the very least, I feel like everybody should turn off notifications. One, our brain doesn't do well with all of this attention grabbing beeps and buzzes that we get all day long. It's terrible for us when we're concentrating on any task. It takes our brain about 10 minutes to really fully get into the task that we are sitting down to do. And if we get distracted by something that comes across one of our devices, we pay attention to that, and now we have 10 more minutes to really get our brain back on task. So just turning off essential notifications can reduce your time and help in terms of focus. Then if you are really bought into this and you're thinking, gosh, I kind of want to go all in. We've seen a lot of research that more time on devices is correlated to increased depression, increased stress, decrease in self-worth. We also see that there's some changes in terms of dopamine in our brain, meaning that we get little drips of dopamine every time we check a device, or we get on social media, or we do some sort of scrolling. When we do that, we can make it so that our brains don't enjoy simpler things like sunsets or dog kisses or hugs from our loved ones. because our brain is getting all of this superficial dopamine and it's just consistently dripping it, especially if we're checking our phone 200 plus times a day. So, thinking about this digital detox, what if you just decided, hey, I'm not going to be on any social media apps? You could just choose one thing for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe one day a week, and see what that does in terms of resetting your brain. I've actually done this. I highly recommend it. And it was pretty significant that I actually just didn't go back to the apps that I had removed because I had less headaches, I had more time, I felt better about myself, and it was something that I didn't miss. So, just to end this, I thought this is a cute little picture. The one last tip that I have is most of us sleep with our phones next to the bed. So it's the last thing we check at night and it's the first thing we check in the morning. And if it's the last thing we check at night, it may cause us anxiety, or our thoughts to race, difficulty falling asleep because we interfere with melatonin releasing from our pineal gland when we are looking at that blue light or when the blue light comes in through our suprachiasmatic nerve. So and then in the morning when it's the first thing we check, same. We can see dysregulation in mood and concentration, and it doesn't really set us up to have a great day. In fact, one of the things that I really promote in terms of a morning routine is not to look at a device for an hour after you wake up. When we're looking at our devices, the first thing in the morning when we wake up, we don't even have time to have an original thought. And already, depending on what it is, maybe you look at the news feed, which can be full of anxiety provoking articles, or you're looking at social media, or name whatever that is that you look at. It's not a very peaceful way for your brain to start the day. So this is one simple thing that could really help fall asleep faster and have a better morning and have a better day with increased focus and better mood. So let your cell phone sleep in another bedroom. Let it sleep in the kitchen. And many people say I use my phone as my alarm clock. Well, I am here to tell you there was a time when we didn't have phones as alarm clocks. Go on Amazon or to a local grocery store, Walmart, Target, and there are alarm clocks that you can buy that are fairly inexpensive. I hope that there's one thing that you can take away from this mental health minute, and I'm really thankful that you spent this time with me today.